Hey, new friends. Just a brief listener note before we get started. This episode contains discussions of sexual assault, child endangerment, and briefly mentions eating disorders. If you're a person who's sensitive to one of these subjects, please use discretion and take care while listening.
Girl, did you see what Taylor Swift sang at her concert last night?
No, I didn't see. It was in Argentina, right?
Yeah, so she was singing Karma, which is the finale of her show.
Okay.
And Travis Kelce was in the audience, and she changed the lyrics to one of the lines to Karma is the guy on the Chiefs coming straight home to me. Oh my gosh, I freaked out. You have to hear it.
Play it for me.
Thanks to the song. Karma is the guy on the Chiefs. Come straight home to me. Oh my God. Dead.
That was you in the background. That was you singing.
That was, I know. We had to that was me because I get excited every single time I watch it.
You are quite the Swiftie.
Yes, I am recording this sitting in front of a giant, it's not like a poster, but like the things that hang on the wall. Anyway, I love Taylor Swift.
Yeah, she's pretty great. And karma is like a good thing. Like this is like all of the good karma coming to her, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Karma's the guy on the Chiefs. I would say Karma is Taylor Swift becoming a billionaire and not even having to start a makeup line.
I know, but she could if she wanted to. Her lipstick never moves.
It's flawless. It never ever moves. Karma is being able to maintain a 3.5 hour show and not having to retouch her lip.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, welcome back to We Talk Shit. I'm Jen.
And I'm Megan.
And we talk shit. This is episode 3. I am so excited. Each week, we are just going to bring you the best gossip that we can find, either from the internet or from our jobs or Reddit or TikTok or Facebook Marketplace. And all of this is just going to be our opinions. We are just trying to have fun and be nosy. Megan, tell me what you did this week.
Okay, so I have really crazy information. Well, crazy is relative, I suppose. But so, friends listening, I work retail, and everyone who works retail knows that Black Friday is coming up in 2 weeks. Very big deal.
Oh, God.
Everyone has like a bunch of hours. Like, I have to go in at like middle of the night, Thanksgiving night. And then I found out
That's awesome.
when I was leaving work that some girl just got fired 2 weeks before Black Friday, which does not happen.
That doesn't make any sense. Now, was she fired before you got to work?
Yeah, she was fired the day before, but I wasn't at work that day.
Okay, so you were off. Okay. Do we know, what are the stats on what happened? Was she walked from the building? Did they just like end of her shift? Like, do you have any idea?
Well, from what I've heard, corporate has been like watching her for a few months now. So that's kind of sketchy too. Like, what was she doing that would have her, have her like red flagged as a person to watch? But we really don't have much information because corporate came in and like escorted her out.
So she was walked out. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
She was walked out through the back door.
Oh, she didn't even get to go through the front. And this was during the workday?
Yes.
Oh my, well, that to me sounds like stealing.
Well, you would think so, but if she was stealing like physical money, then the police would have been involved. But there was no police.
Yeah.
Well, in theory,
Oh my God, well, so if she was stealing merchandise, like, would the police be involved? Like, considering that merchandise is technically money too?
I have no idea, but it's so crazy because, like I said, nobody gets fired for Black Friday. And so the fact that we're like in the 2 week period of like getting things set up and doing all that. And then she was fired. Oh man, we were all like, oh, what did she do? What'd she do? Like nobody knows.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Nobody knows.
Oh man, I'm surprised that there's not one person, like she doesn't have some sneaky bestie that's still working there that's like, yeah, I know what happened. She was doing this. What was that thing that you were telling me that you could do from the register?
Oh, manual markdowns.
Okay, so what is that?
Okay, so when people
Yeah.
buy stuff, it comes up on the screen. So then you click on it and you can
Yes,
like
keep going.
change the price and put in a different price.
Oh my god. So do you think she was doing that for herself or like people who came into the store? Like, you know what? You're cute.
I mean, again, nobody knows. That could have been
Nobody
something,
knows.
but like it had to be something big, you know? And she didn't really strike me as like a criminal mastermind. So I mean, I'm just like, and watch it be like something stupid too. Like we're all making this big deal, and then it's like, oh, she didn't clock out on a break.
Right, yeah. She's like, oh, yeah, no, she called out one too many times, so they had to fire her. Like,
Yeah.
She wasn't wearing the uniform. Man, I used to be a restaurant manager. I don't know if you know this about me, but I managed restaurants for like 4 years, and it's such a great job that I am now a bartender. That's how great of a job being a restaurant manager is. The fun thing about being a restaurant manager is that everybody lies to your face. Everybody lies right to your face. Like the staff, oh, I can't come to work. My grandmother's dead, or the guests, yeah, it turns out that I'm allergic to lettuce. You have to take all of this off of the check. Everybody lies right to it's the worst job. Anyway.
Really quick before your story, can I just tell you something? I just remembered this.
Yeah, tell me.
One restaurant I was working at, we had a restaurant manager, and I hope you're sitting down.
I am.
Had never been a server, never been a bartender, never been a busboy, never been a cook, nothing. Doesn't that make your head explode?
Yeah, it does, but I know about those because sometimes big restaurant chains will like be at a job fair where there's other like places hiring managers, and they'll just get out of school, and like some big restaurant chain will be like they went to Yale, so they're obviously very smart and they majored in management, so they'll be a great manager.
No, that's not how it works because they don't get it.
No idea. No, it's all about numbers to them. They like have no idea about like the whole people part of the job. Like I honestly feel like being a restaurant manager is a calling, because just because you've been, a server bartender for like 15 years doesn't mean you're going to be a great manager. It just means that you know how the business works,
Yeah.
That was me. I'll just say that. That was me. I thought because I'd been a server bartender for so long that it was just a natural progression for me to be a manager. But it was not natural, and I did not enjoy it. And I did not like having to get my clothes dry cleaned. But while I was a manager, I did end up having to fire 2 separate people for stealing on 2 separate occasions. And on one occasion, I fired somebody for being a terrible employee. I called my boss and was like, hey, what am I supposed to do about this kid? He was like, just let him go. Just let him go. We're done with him. Anyway, long story short, I was just like, so we're just going to let you go. All right, so let's call it a night. He just walks out of the office and he starts pulling trash out of his pockets. This is totally true. He's just pulling trash. And I've never seen, this was a tiny, tiny kid wearing like skin tight jeans, and he's pulling trash out of his pockets and just tossing them on the floor. And I'm right behind him, like picking the trash up. I'm like, come on, don't do this. Don't worry about clocking out. Just leave. Please just leave. Don't make a scene. And he's throwing so much trash on the ground. He gets to the door and he turns around and he goes, pick that up, bitch. And walks away. And I gotta be honest with you, that's so fucking gangster.
Oh my God, that kid is an icon.
I can't even be mad. I was like, oh my God. Did he think of that on the spot, or did he bring a bunch of trash in just like knowing he was probably going to get fired that day?
Yeah, I have so many questions. Why was there trash in his pockets?
I don't know. It was so many things. It was receipts. It was like little pieces of cotton, like you would get from inside of your comforter. It was like, I think there was a dryer sheet. There was a gum wrapper. Like there was so much trash. Like he was outside collecting litter or something. Have you ever been fired?
I feel like I have, but I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I'm trying to think. And
you know what's fun?
What?
The job that you and I worked together.
Oh, yeah?
I got fired for being a racist. And for the listeners who don't know, I am a Black Jewish person. Which isn't to say that I couldn't be racist, but I I was not racist.
That's an interesting thing to be fired for.
I didn't even say anything racist. If anything, I was the person that was trying to correct people so that they wouldn't be racist and be like, you really shouldn't say that. And I got fired for being a racist bully. So just goes to show anybody can get fired for anything. You're really lucky if you've never been fired. That's my honest opinion. Yeah. I got fired for being a manager. So yeah.
Well, wasn't for you.
It seems when I screw up big. But I've never stolen.
I have never stolen either.
Like, I've never stolen from the company. Yeah, like, I did fire 2 people for stealing. Like I said, there was one guy who he stole, like, cash from another server on Valentine's Day, which is one of the biggest days of the year. And he was denying it and denying it and denying it. And then at the end, he was like, I'll pay you guys back. And we were like, but you didn't steal it. And then he went next door where his wife was working and she came back and wrote us a check. Well, I'll tell you what I think happened. I think he stole the money, walked it over to her restaurant and came back because we did find this server's book. And if I was accused of stealing, I'd be like, first of all, no. And I'd leave. I certainly wouldn't offer to pay whoever just accused me of
absolutely
stealing.
not.
You know what I mean?
Especially $700. That's a ton of money.
That's a ton of cash, dude. And that poor server, the one who'd been stolen from, he was just like, he looked like he was going to cry.
Because he's probably thinking he owes that money now.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that. And then there was another person who we caught changing credit card tips. And she had been doing it for a very long time. Shockingly enough, I had also been dumped right before we fired her. It was a great day. It was a banner day. Being a restaurant manager is so great.
So I think we're all up to date on the week. What are we talking shit about this week?
Oh my gosh. You know, I just keep bringing stuff up from the past, but this one has honestly just come across my For You page on TikTok all the time recently. I am going to talk shit about Dave Coulier and Alanis Morissette and Jagged Little Pill.
Ooh, all right. Well, I'm excited for that.
Very juicy. All right. Okay, so Dave Coulier and Alanis Morissette, how familiar are you with the story of their little romance?
So I know Dave as Uncle Joey from Full House.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they dated, and then she wrote a song from, what was it, Jagged Little Pill?
Yes,
about him,
Jagged Little Pill.
But it didn't come out that it was about him until like years and years and years and years later. And that's what I know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, it was an urban legend. So you are totally right about all of that. This is kind of a wild story. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you back in time. All right. The year is 1995. You are Dave Coulier. You are a mediocre stand-up comedian who is also on a sitcom that's basically made for children called Full House. Okay. So you're driving down the street, you're listening to the radio, and you hear a song come on called You Oughta Know. And you're like, dude, this is actually a really good song. You love the guitar, you're loving the drums, you think that the lady can really, really sing, you know? And then the words start to sound familiar to you. And you're like, wait, this is so crazy. This sounds like me and my ex-girlfriend, whatever she's saying right now. And then one line that she says brings it all into focus. She says, I hate to bug you in the middle of dinner. And she's like, oh my God, this is my ex-girlfriend. And she's singing about me.
Can you imagine? Like,
that would be terrible. That would be terrible. But this album went on to be the third highest selling album still of all female artists. Now think about that. And it's still the number one selling debut album to date. So what he's hearing about himself is just being blasted into bedrooms, earphones. It's all out there. But luckily, his ex-girlfriend is a class act and she is not sharing the name of the ex-boyfriend that pretty much every single song is about. Okay? So that's me setting the scene. Are you ready to hear about this relationship?
Yeah. Also, I just double checked that information because I was like curious to see who else was on the list. Lauryn Hill, Adele, Janet, Madonna, and then Taylor Swift. I thought Taylor Swift would be a lot higher.
Even Tay-Tay. Bring it back to Taylor Allison Swift.
There she is. There she is. And there's only one album on here, 1989. That does not surprise me that it's that one.
Yeah.
That's a bop. It's full of bops.
No, me neither. That album was wildly, wildly popular. I was a teen when that album came out, and I can honestly say that it was a life changer. I listened to it from beginning to end so many times. I can't even count. I drove my father crazy, like playing it in the car, like honestly. But so Dave Coulier was on Full House. But before that, he was on a TV show on Nickelodeon called Out of Control. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. I'd never heard of that one.
I mean, it was good. I watched it. I was a kid at the time, obviously. It's actually where he originated the phrase "cut it out" with the little finger thing that he did. That's actually where he started doing that. Was on Out of Control, and then he brought it to Full House. And then there was another TV show in the 80s that was another, obviously, children's show. It's Nickelodeon, called You Can't Do That on Television. Do you remember that one?
No. All the TV I watched when I was a kid would have been early 90s, mid 90s.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. That's right. You're significantly younger than me. I'm an old troll that lives under a bridge. Alanis Morissette was a kid. She was on the show. You might have seen clips of it. Nickelodeon does a lot of things where they drop green slime on people.
I did
You
know
ever
that.
seen that? Okay, so that comes from You Can't Do That on Television. Whenever the kids would say, I don't know, green slime would fall from the ceiling. And I could never decide if it looked like it tasted good or not, but they always opened their mouths when it fell from the ceiling. And I was like, gross. But there it is. Alanis Morissette was on a total of 6 episodes. But it was one of those shows that just like showed little clips, kind of like Saturday Night Live. And these were kids. So I have no idea how long she was working on those 6 episodes before they went to air. Right?
Yeah.
When she was on the show, it was 1986, so she was about 14 years old. When Dave Coulier was on Out of Control, it started when he was 23 years old. They started dating, supposedly, in 1992. They met at an all-star game from some hockey team in Canada. They're both Canadians, and Alanis Morissette was singing the national anthem, the Canadian national anthem, "Oh, Canada," and that's where they met. But there is speculation that they started dating before that. So here's where the drama comes in. Have you ever heard the song Ironic?
Of course I have heard that song. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
Yeah, I remember the music video. That is an iconic music video, just like 4 versions of Alanis Morissette
in the car,
on a road trip
right?
together. Exactly. Yeah. So if you listen to the lyrics of that song, now basically the entire album is about Dave Coulier. It's about her relationship with this man who is much older than her. It says so in You Ought to Know that his next girlfriend after Alanis was an older version of her. So it was probably somebody closer to age appropriate than she was, right?
Right.
Well, in the song Isn't It Ironic, there's a part where she says, it's like meeting the man of my dreams and then meeting his beautiful wife. You remember that, right? Dave Coulier was married. In 1990, he was married. He had a kid in 1991, and then he got divorced in 1992, which is, strangely enough, the year that he and Alanis started dating. If she would have met him while he was still married, it would have been either in 1991 or 1990, when she was either 16 or 17 years old. So there's a significant age gap there, because when she was 18, he was 33 years old.
Ugh, gross.
That's really gross. But the weirder part about it is, like, it's, oh, well, don't worry, she was 18, it's legal. But you have to think about that because they did know each other from Nickelodeon. So if he did meet her again when she was 18, it was like, oh, I remember you. You were that 14-year-old kid. Well, you're really sexy. Let's go on a date. Like, that's still weird.
And it's like, why? I will never understand why men in their 30s want to hang out with teenagers. No.
That is such a good question. I don't understand. Unless you're just a total idiot, what are you talking about? I can't even imagine dating somebody in their 20s. Like, what are you guys talking about?
I don't know. I have
They're not
one of my
talking, I guess.
girlfriends is like she's like 25 or 26 or something, and I'm 35. Can put that on record.
Mhm.
So there's like quite a big of an age gap. And sometimes she says things to me and I'll just like not
Right.
even know what she's talking about. And she'll be like, Megan, like you're so old. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what
Ugh.
you're talking about. I don't know what this trend is. I don't know what that word means. Like, so I can't even imagine like and that's in her 20s, like a teenager?
Yeah, but, like, dating. So, like, all of that little conversation that you have with your partner, just, like, all of the random stuff, whatever you guys have in common, all that's, like, gone. Like, you guys have to meet somewhere in the middle. Like, what's in the middle?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's very odd, but there's a lot that this is actually the reason why I think I started seeing this story was because there's a lot that people are finally talking about like Hollywood men and their child brides. You know, it's like become quite a bit of conversation.
Yeah, and it's been going on for like hundreds of years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like so accepted for some reason. I don't understand it, but Hollywood men and their child brides. Somebody should write a book, and I love that as a title, and they can have it done. Dave Coulier always seemed like such a clean comedian to me. I mean, he had little Bucky the Beaver, you know, he was just like, I don't know, very, very clean comedian who started on a children's network, right? And it was, even though ABC was not a children's network, I always kind of felt the same way about Full House. It was so clean. It was like TV for Christians. You know what I mean?
Yes, that would be my like after school show. I watch it every single day in elementary school. I would come home and like Full
Oh,
House
for
would be
real?
Full House would be on, and that's what I would watch.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. So, like I said to the audience, I'm significantly older than you. I'm almost 10 years older than you. So, when I was a kid, that show was on, like, it came on every Thursday. No, obviously Friday. It came on every Friday. It was on TGIF on ABC. So, I saw most of those episodes new as well as Family Matters. It was a wild time to be alive. And it, like I said, it was just like a very clean, very family oriented show. If you don't know, which you do, but if you don't know, there's Dave Coulier, there's John Stamos, and there's Bob Saget. And they are somehow father figures to these three girls, Jodie Sweetin, who's the middle child, Candace Burr, who at the time was Candace Cameron. That's a whole other conversation. And then the Olsen twins, who played Michelle. They played one person. Being around that amount of children for most of like the early 90s, you would think that these guys would keep it pretty clean. But it turns out that the guys on Full House were like really, really nasty. Like they were nasty guys. There's a lot that the crew has said about how they were always telling dirty jokes, talking about drugs, sex, and alcohol right in front of the kids. There's a story about how there was a time that the Olsen twins couldn't be in the shot. Like they were babies at the time and they couldn't be there to film. So they made these like rubber babies for the guys to speak to in the scene so that they could like, you know, keep the shot so that you can't tell that they were just fake dolls, right? Well, the guys are like tossing the babies around, pretending to quote, do stuff to them. And it's just a pretty disgusting time. Nobody's there, just adults, right? Well, actually, no, it got filmed and the kids saw it.
Ew.
Yeah, Candace Cameron at the time was like a young teenager, 12, 13 years old. Jodie Sweetin was, you know, in the single digits. And obviously the Olsen twins were babies. But this did get to the school kids. The school kids saw it in their school trailer. The guys have admitted to doing things like whippets between takes. Whippets is not a drug that you do first.
No, and so I knew all that about Bob Saget. But John Stamos, he's okay. I mean, I think his like reputation has been pretty clean from what I know.
It is so you have led right into my next conversation. John Stamos is a bad man.
Is he?
It's not good. Well, first of all, let's talk about John Stamos and his badness. Now, I will definitely say this, and I will say this even knowing what kind of man he is. John Stamos was most definitely the hottest guy on that show and stayed hot. like deep into his 50s. I will admit that.
Yeah, but what I mean is like his like public persona has been like pretty clean.
Right.
Like I haven't really.
No, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking
Okay.
about. Yeah. So he got arrested for a DUI in 2015 and found that they found that he was on GHB. Now, GHB is usually a date rape drug, but he admitted to taking it himself to get high. There are stories now about how he parties with the younger cast of Fuller House. So the cast's children, has them over for pool parties and such. There was a story that came out recently from this sort of like known party girl in LA. So she was like part of the scene. He was saying that she was trying to extort him for $626,000, which is such a random specific number. But she said that there was like lots of drugs, that he had been hanging out with strippers and, you know, doing crazy videos and stuff. And she even admitted that she had had intimate relations with him. And remember, this is when Fuller House was filming. She was 17.
Ew. I have not heard any of this. I don't know any of this.
Yeah. But by far to me, the most disgusting thing that I've heard so far is there's a possibility that he may have hooked up with Jodie Sweetin. Now, she wasn't a child at the time, but she was very young and she was very addicted to meth. And it's all in her memoir. To set the scene, they had all gone to the premiere of New York Minute, right? So the whole cast is hanging out, just supporting the Olsen twins. You know, the Olsen twins are on fire. They're like basically on their way to becoming billionaires. And Jodie Sweetin wakes up in the morning and she's in bed with, I think, Mary Kate, but it could be Ashley, and John Stamos. And she doesn't know what happened.
I think I did hear about this. Because I remember when her memoir came out, I didn't read it, but I like saw, you know, clips and stuff. And I remember hearing something like this. Now that you're saying it, I think I did hear this.
Well, I think that's totally crazy. She's tried to walk back this statement, especially now that she's on Fuller House, but it's in her memoir for everyone to see. So that's John Stamos. Let's talk about Bob Saget. So Bob Saget, may he rest in peace, doesn't have a lot of like scandalous stuff about him, but I will say that he was not a clean comedian, not by a long shot.
No, he had a potty mouth.
Oh, he was just gross. He's actually one of my favorite parts of the movie Half Baked. Have you seen that movie?
No, I've never seen that movie.
Well, it's about weed, obviously. it's about drugs. And at one point, one of the guys has to go to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting for marijuana, and Bob Saget is there, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing here on weed? Have you ever sucked dick for weed?" And it's so funny. Anyway, there's also the movie The Aristocrats. Have you ever heard of that? Not Aristocats, Aristocrats.
Oh, no, because I was definitely going to say I've seen the cat one, but no, I haven't seen the other one.
Yeah, a lot of people mix that up, but they won't like within the first 30 seconds of the movie. So The Aristocrats is a documentary about the dirtiest joke ever written. And it's not actually written. It's kind of improvised. So the joke of the joke is there's this family, you know, mom, dad, 2 kids, and they're trying to get famous. They're like entertainers. And they go to see an agent, and the agent is like, you know, I'm not taking any new clients. And they're like, please, we're so talented. Wait till you see what we can do. And finally the agent's like, okay, what do you do? And then you just start saying the filthiest things that you can think of, just one right after the other. You know, like, you know, they all start fucking each other. And that's to me the grossest thing that I can think of. But this joke gets really filthy. And like as an audience member, well, most people are crying laughing because of shock. It's really, really gross. And the person who tells it the best and the grossest in the movie is Bob Saget. It's pretty great. It's actually pretty great. I don't have a bad thing to say about him, but he's not Danny Tanner. Like he's not a sweet, wholesome boy. He's a really filthy comedian.
Well, because I think that was something that was like brought up at some point, was like, oh, you think it's like sweet Danny Tanner, dad to 3 girls, widow. But no, he's the opposite.
Yeah. So going back to those rubber dolls and John Stamos and the story after New York Minute and a lot of the jokes that were being made on the set, what's interesting to me is that when they did do Fuller House, Mary Kate and Ashley did not come back. They're the only people from the cast who did not come back. And they tried to play it off like, well, we didn't even know that they were filming anything. Nobody told us about a reboot. And John Stamos just trolled them on the internet and berated them all over the place. It was actually really weird.
That's super weird.
I mean, I don't know. Those women are 37 now. So, but like, it's just very strange to be trolled by. I kind of think that it's possible. This is an allegation. I'm just gossiping here, but it's possible that they were like seriously traumatized on that show. And that's my opinion. You know what I mean?
Well, I think their whole lives was because like Mary-Kate and Ashley were so big when I was a kid. I have seen every single movie, every single one. New York Minute, love it. Billboard Dad, remember that one? So good.
Yeah.
Like I've seen them all, and
I really like the one with Kirstie Alley.
Oh,
it's like Parent Trap.
Yes. Oh shoot, what is that one called? That one's so. I mean, they're all super good, and it's like they worked.
They're really good.
Their whole entire childhood. It's like, of course, they don't want to go back. You know, like
yeah. And one of them married a man that was a lot older than her, significantly older than her, right?
Yes. Very much older. I think they got divorced.
They did get divorced.
One of them just had a baby,
I don't know.
too.
There's just something to be said for their experience on that show. Yeah, I think I did hear that. I don't know. I really liked them. I really like them. I think that they're very talented. I was in my 20s when I saw New York Minute, and I still really enjoyed it. So, I totally appreciate their body of work. So it was really surprising to see that they didn't come back. Like, it's just sort of
really. I wasn't.
Yeah,
I wasn't surprised at all that they didn't come back. Also, the movie is called It Takes Two.
It Takes Two. God damn it. Yes.
Yeah.
I really liked that movie. Yeah. I mean, I watched it a bunch of times. I rented it a lot from Blockbuster, if that tells you anything.
Oh, what a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive, my friend.
We're getting very distracted by the Olsen twins.
All right. I mean, but they're such a big part of this story, legit. Like, I worry about them. I don't know. There was a point in time where I was really worried about them. Remember when they were always wearing those really big baggy witch clothes and you're just kind of like, oh my God, are they doing drugs? Girls, are you eating? You know?
Well, one of them did have an ED for a long time.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know.
I think it was at Mary Kate's wedding to the older guy. I believe on all of their tables, they had bowls of cigarettes.
I did see that there was a lot. Oh, it's really gross. They both smoked a lot back in the day.
Yeah, but I feel like it was cool though.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. Britney Spears still smokes.
Britney Spears can do whatever she wants.
Oh, God bless her. I love her so much. Oh, anyway, so all of these guys messing around with younger girls, I guess, was not a one-off. So John Stamos is married to a 37-year-old woman right now, and that's exactly how old Mary-Kate and Ashley are. So they were babies when Mary-Kate and Ashley were babies.
Who is he married to? Because I know
he's married to this model.
He was married to Rebecca Romaine for a long time, and she was Rebecca Romaine Stamos.
He was, yeah. I remember that. Yeah. Who's he married to right now? I'm going to Google it right now, John. Her name is Caitlin McHugh. McHugh.
Never heard of her.
She was born in 1986. He was born in the 50s. But also Bob Saget, once again, may he rest in peace, was married to somebody that was 23 years younger than him. And Dave Coulier is married to somebody who is 33 years younger than him. These guys like their child brides. I'm just saying.
We're going to call that a pattern.
That's what they call in the biz a pattern. Yeah, for sure. It's deeply uncomfortable. I'll say that. There's one more thing that I wanted to tell you about, and it's a song called Hands Clean, and it's from a different album. It's not from Jagged Little Pill. But there's something about this song that makes you feel like Alanis Morissette was screaming at us that something happened to her in this relationship, and we just weren't listening. I'm going to read this, and you tell me what you think, okay?
Okay.
So the first verse, if it weren't for your maturity, none of this would have happened. If you weren't so wise beyond your years, I would have been able to control myself. If it weren't for my attention, you wouldn't have been so successful. And if it weren't for me, you would have never amounted to very much. And then she says in the hook, this could be messy, but you don't seem to mind. Don't go telling everybody and overlook this supposed crime. We'll fast forward to a few years later and no one knows except the both of us. And I have honored your request for silence and you've washed your hands clean of this.
That sounds like something not so good was going on.
Something bad.
Yeah. Something before she turned 18.
Yeah. That sounds like, and I'm just going to say it, grooming. That sounds like grooming to me.
That's exactly what it is. That's what he was doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was doing. Yeah. So that's my take on their relationship. It's all a little funny. None of it sounds good. And it definitely does paint Full House in a much different color. It's more of a shadowy.
You know what else is interesting?
Tell me.
Is that my cousin went to see the Jagged Little Pill musical. Have you seen that?
No, I've listened to it. It's so good. I've not seen it though.
Okay, so I didn't know anything about it, and she told me about it, and it's very dark. Very dark.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't...
Very dark. Yeah, I did know that.
That kind of like surprised me a little bit, but like maybe now hearing all this stuff, it's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's interesting because when you're listening to the music, you're like, oh my God, I never would have thought of these harmonies and stuff like that. But then like when you start to think of them in context of a story, like the story would have to be dark. And I think that says a lot about the music in that album.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. So that's Dave Coulier and Alanis Morissette. And I wish nothing but the best for Alanis Morissette. And I hope that she is living her best life right now.
Yeah. In Canada, eh?
She did get to bang Ryan Reynolds. So yeah in Canada, eh? So God bless Alanis Morissette. And we'll be right back.
Oh.
Okay, so do you have any final thoughts about our main piece of gossip today?
I think that grown men should not hang out with teenage girls.
You know, I would say that that's my final thought as well. That's crazy.
It's another hot take. We've had them all day.
Take. I don't know. We maybe shouldn't put that on the podcast. Not very many people are going to agree with that.
Like, well, you know, we really like their podcast, but then they said grown adult men shouldn't hang out with teenagers, and that's what really lost me.
I was with you until you said that. Oh my gosh. Okay, girl, what are we talking shit about next week?
We are talking shit about crochet drama and maybe step into the crochet world for a little bit.
Okay, so the listeners don't know, but I am looking so forward to this. If you don't know, and I hope it's okay if I drop this information. If you don't know, Megan is a very talented crocheter and has put some of her stuff on social media, and it's so incredible. And to find out that there's a whole community and that community has tea says I am so attached.
Aw, well, thanks, girl. Yeah, and luckily I'm not in any of the crochet drama. It's about everyone else.
That's the best kind. I'm so glad, although I really wanted to hear that you had some beef with some crocheter. I don't know, some Betsy on the other side of the country. You're like, this bitch.
Right?
Thank you so much. We love you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in to us. And tell your friends. Rate us on iTunes. That's how we get listeners. Okay.
And then if you want to, we are on Facebook at We Talk Shit Podcast, and the S is a $sign. And on Instagram at We Talk Shit the Podcast, but no $sign.
They wouldn't let us put the $sign on Instagram.
No, they did not. They weren't having any of that.
I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Rate us on
listening.
iTunes. That's how we get listeners. And thank you so much. We will see you next time. For real this time.
For real.